Welcome to the deep dive. We are really thrilled to have you joining us today.
Yeah, it is great to be here. We have a really fascinating topic to get into.
We absolutely do. And we're going to start things off by asking you a rather personal, maybe even slightly uncomfortable question.
Oh, diving right in. I like it.
Have to. So think about this. Have you ever felt like you are working incredibly hard, putting in the long hours, doing everything society says you are supposed to do?
Right, following all the rules.
Exactly. But then you look at your bank account or your overall level of success, and it just doesn't seem to reflect the sheer amount of effort you're actually expending.
I mean, I think everyone has felt that at some point.
For sure. If you are nodding your head or sighing in agreement right now, you are definitely not alone. It is a wildly common frustration.
It really is. It's this nagging feeling of being undervalued.
And that specific feeling is exactly what we are going to be exploring today. We have a massive, really compelling stack of source material to go through.
We do. We are looking at a deeply passionate, highly detailed presentation from a speaker named Bob Proctor.
Yes, and in this presentation, he explores a framework he calls the law of compensation.
And what makes this so compelling is that it isn't just some, modern corporate buzzword strategy.
Right, not at all. It actually draws heavily on the timeless foundational philosophies of historical thinkers and writers.
People like Ralph Waldo Emerson, Earl Nightingale, Napoleon Hill, and Raymond Hollywell.
Huge names in this space.
Yeah.
So our mission for today's deep dive is clear. We are going to break down this concept, which Emerson supposedly referred to as the law of laws, into its three very specific actionable pillars.
And as we do, we're going to discover how this law completely challenges and shifts our traditional everyday understanding of work, of money, and most importantly, of your own human potential.
Okay, let's unpack this.
It really is a massive paradigm shift. And to understand it, we have to look at how foundational the source considers this concept.
Yeah, you mentioned Emerson earlier.
Right. The text points out that Ralph Waldo Emerson considered this the law of laws. The speaker notes that Emerson believed if this law did not naturally exist in the fabric of the universe, mankind would actually have to invent it just to make sense of the world.
That is that is a huge claim.
Right.
That is how fundamental this concept is meant to be to human interaction and commerce.
Exactly. And the central premise here is actually quite simple, yet incredibly profound when you try to apply it.
Let's hear it.
The law states that the amount of money or the amount of good you receive in your life is going to be in an exact, direct ratio to three specific steps or pillars.
Just three.
It's just three. Number one, the need for what you do. Number two, your ability to do it. And number three, the difficulty there is in replacing you.
Wow. I have to admit, it sounds almost too simple when you first hear it. I can imagine someone listening right now thinking, well, my job is way more complicated than a basic three-step formula.
Oh, that pushback is completely natural. We are conditioned to view our careers through a highly complex, highly emotional lens.
We really are.
What's fascinating here is how clinical and mathematically precise this law is. Think about how much emotion we attach to our career success, or our lack of it.
Yeah, we feel overlooked by management, or we feel like the market is inherently unfair.
Right. Or we complain that our boss just does not appreciate our unique talents.
Always the boss's fault.
Exactly. But this philosophy completely removes all of that emotion and all of that office politics from the equation.
It strips it right down.
It does. It essentially argues that your true compensation is not determined by luck or favoritism or who you know at the country club. It is determined by a strict, uncompromising formula.
The need, your ability, and the difficulty in replacing you.
Yes. It puts the accountability entirely back on the individual.
I want to dig into that first pillar, the need for what you do, because I could easily see someone getting stuck right out of the gate on that one.
How so?
Well, they might look at their specific niche or skill set and think, I don't know if there is a massive world-changing need for what I specifically do.
That is a fair concern.
But Proctor makes a really astute observation about the modern reality we are all living in. He talks about how we are dealing with a world that is not getting bigger. It is actually getting much smaller.
It is a hyper-connected, fast-changing global market.
Yes. He uses this great imagery pointing out that today you can strap a television set the size of a watch right onto your wrist.
The technology is wild.
It is. You can hit a button and send a message to 1 million people all at once, and they receive it instantly, no matter where they are on the planet.
And that profound technological leap is exactly why the presentation argues that Pillar 1 is essentially already taken care of for you.
That is a relief.
Because the world has changed so dramatically and become so intimately interconnected, you do not actually have to go out of your way to invent a need from scratch.
The need already exists on a massive scale.
Exactly. The text asserts that the world is quite literally desperately looking for effective people to serve others.
There are millions of people everywhere who are confused, who do not understand how things work, and who need assistance.
Or guidance. Or a highly specific service. So if you are listening and worrying about whether there is a market for your specific talents, the source suggests that the need is phenomenal.
We are living in an era of infinite niches.
You simply have to recognize that the global market is waiting for effective individuals to step up and provide value.
That makes a lot of sense. The audience is already there, waiting. But that brings us right to the second step, the second pillar.
Which is your ability to do it.
Yes, your ability to actually fill that need and provide that value. And this is where the source points out a very common, very dangerous trap that so many of us fall into.
The bare minimum trap.
That's the one. The speaker notes that most people work just diligently enough so that they do not get fired.
And on the flip side, companies pay their employees just enough so that they won't quit.
We hear a lot about quiet quitting today, but this source text from decades ago is tackling the exact same concept. It is this perpetual, exhausting cycle of just trying to get by.
It is a state of mutual mediocrity. Both the employer and the employee are doing the bare minimum to sustain the relationship.
It sounds miserable when you frame it like that.
And Proctor's philosophy is very clear on this. Operating that way is not just unfulfilling, it is a direct violation of the law of compensation.
Because you are actively capping your own potential.
Right. When you are just doing enough to get by, you are essentially stunting the entire mathematical formula we talked about. The presentation argues that you have to shift your focus entirely onto that second step.
You have to put all your professional energy into mastering your ability to do what you do.
Because you cannot control the market need, but you have absolute control over your own mastery.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because of the domino effect this creates across the rest of the formula.
The domino effect is key here.
The source explains that if you perform your task to the absolute best of your ability, if you dedicate yourself completely and relentlessly to Pillar 2, then Pillar 3 actually takes care of itself.
Precisely. Let's remember that Pillar 3 is the difficulty there is in replacing you.
A lot of people try to make themselves irreplaceable in the wrong ways, don't they?
Oh, all the time. They hoard information, they refuse to train their subordinates, or they play Machiavellian office politics so that the department falls apart without them.
Creating chaos is a job security strategy.
It happens, but the text argues that if you do step 2 right, if you become exceptionally effective and continuously improve your fundamental ability, you naturally become incredibly difficult to replace for the right reason.
Your absolute value increases.
And when you are genuinely difficult to replace because of your high level of skill, your personal stock goes up.
The text notes that when you reach that level of proficiency, you infallibly bring out the best there is in you.
And you will find that there are people waiting in the wings to hire you. They will be actively seeking you out to pay you for your expertise.
It is a highly empowering way to look at your career. You are taking complete control over your own market value rather than waiting for a yearly review to tell you what you are worth.
It shifts the locus of control internally.
And what I appreciate about this source material is that it does not just leave this as some abstract, high-level business theory.
No, it gets very personal.
It does. The speaker actually shares his own personal life story as a raw case study to prove that this law works in practice. He talks candidly about his life prior to the year 1961.
Back then, he admits he never studied, he never did anything extra, he was just trying to get by.
And his tangible results matched that minimal effort. He was earning very little money, he was completely drowning in debt, and he had a very difficult time even finding stable work.
It serves as a classic, relatable example of what happens when you ignore or violate the law. You get exactly what you put in.
Nothing.
Exactly. But then the presentation details his transformation. He started studying the materials of Earl Nightingale and Napoleon Hill, and he began reading Emerson's essays.
He had a realization.
He realized that his compensation was entirely up to him, based on his ability. So he made a conscious, deliberate decision to pivot.
He decided he was never going to stop attempting to improve the value he provided to others.
He committed to learning how to communicate more effectively all the time, always trying to give his absolute best and, crucially, to do it slightly better every single day. He focused entirely on Pillar 2.
And the contrast in his life is just staggering. Today, instead of struggling to find work, he says he literally has to hide from it periodically because he is in such high demand.
That is a good problem to have.
Right. He operates on a massive global scale. He lives in Toronto, has an office in Phoenix, but consults and works with people all over the entire world.
And he is very clear about why this dramatic shift happened.
He insists it is not an accident. It is not because he got lucky or met the right venture capitalist. It is by design, and it is governed by this law.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this personal anecdote demonstrates that the law of compensation is entirely replicable.
It is an objective system.
It is not dependent on your current circumstances, your past failures, or your formal education. If someone who is deeply in debt and struggling to maintain basic employment can turn their life around and operate a highly demanded global enterprise simply by dedicating themselves to Pillar 2, then the argument is that anyone can do it.
Improving their ability to serve.
Exactly. The law merely responds to the input you give it.
Which perfectly sets up one of the more surprising parts of this entire presentation. Because if you were sitting there listening to this and thinking, okay, that sounds great for him, he must be naturally gifted, but I'm just an average person, I don't have that kind of limitless potential, the speaker completely attempts to destroy that excuse.
He uses human biology to do it.
He really does. He rattles off these mind-bending biological statistics to prove just how much potential energy and power you actually have locked inside of you right now.
Yes, the scientific facts he references are truly staggering when you pause to consider the scale of them.
They really are. But I have to admit, when I first read this section, I thought, wait, why is a business presentation suddenly turning into an advanced anatomy and physics lesson?
It seems like a detour at first glance.
Right. He points out that you have about 11 million kilowatt hours per pound of potential energy locked up just in the electrons in the atoms of your body.
That is an immense amount of power.
He describes the human brain as an electronic switching station that completely boggles the minds of the wisest individuals.
Your central nervous system is described as the most phenomenal electrical system in the entire universe.
He says it makes our most advanced supercomputers look like absolute toys.
And then he talks about your circulatory system, how your blood circulates through hundreds of miles of passageways every 33 seconds.
In one sweeping change, it carries all the necessary nutrients in and sweeps all the garbage out.
It does seem like a detour, but we really need to understand why the speaker is bringing these specific biological facts into a discussion about career success and monetary compensation.
He isn't just showing off his science trivia.
No, he is not trying to give a literal physics lecture. He is using these almost overwhelming biological metaphors to break the listener out of their self-imposed psychological limitations.
To shake them awake.
He is arguing that if our bodies are these incredibly complex, astronomically powerful engines, our capacity to learn a new skill or master a trade is practically boundless.
When he talks about you being the highest form of creation on the planet, he is highlighting that the most educated scientists alive cannot even guess at what you are truly capable of achieving.
So what does this mean for the listener? It means that your capacity to master Pillar 2, your ability to improve what you do, is biologically limitless.
You possess mental faculties and physical systems so advanced that you can tap into an infinite source of creativity and problem solving.
The only barrier is whether or not you are actually choosing to utilize that power. For years, the speaker admits he didn't use it because his whole goal was just to survive the workday.
But the power is always resting there, waiting to be directed.
That is a phenomenal way to reframe it. To stop seeing yourself as just an employee with a fixed set of skills and start viewing yourself as this walking, breathing powerhouse of untapped potential.
And once the presentation establishes that you have this limitless potential, the source text introduces a massive paradigm shift regarding why we even go to work in the first place.
This part completely flips the traditional script.
It really does. I can already hear people rolling their eyes at this next concept because the speaker states that the idea that you go to work to earn money is a fundamental misconception.
In fact, he goes so far as to say that working is the absolute worst way to earn money.
That statement definitely catches your attention.
And it invites a lot of skepticism because it contradicts almost everything we are taught growing up.
We are taught to trade our time for a paycheck.
But the text philosophy is deeply rooted in the concept of scalable value and providing service. The speaker argues that you should not go to work with the primary goal of earning dollars.
You should go to work to gain satisfaction.
You should spend your days doing what you absolutely love to do and mastering your craft. Money, in this historical framework, is not the goal itself.
It is simply the natural, inevitable byproduct of providing exceptional service to others.
And he even mentions a specific program they have called the Life Success Chairman's Club.
The entire purpose of this club is to teach people how to step off that hamster wheel and set up multiple sources of income.
The whole concept behind it is that if you truly understand the law and provide enough scalable value, you can earn money while you are sleeping.
In today's economy, that might look like creating digital products, writing a book, making smart investments, or building a business system that operates without your constant physical presence.
It frees you up to do whatever you want when you are awake.
He acknowledges that this sounds completely bizarre to most people who are used to punching a clock, but that is only because most people simply do not understand how the law of compensation actually operates.
It is a radical shift in perspective, from trading time for wages to creating scalable value.
The focus moves entirely away from the frantic, stressful pursuit of dollars and centers, entirely on the quality and reach of the service you are providing to the world.
You put a lot of highly focused energy and effort out, you provide immense value, and the mathematical law dictates that you will get a proportional amount back.
So, what does this all mean? Especially for the listener right now who is thinking, look, I hear you. I want to provide exceptional service, but let's be realistic.
There is always a but.
Always. They're thinking, I work for a massive corporation that dictates my salary band. Even if I do vastly more than I am currently doing, even if I master Pillar 2, human resources isn't necessarily going to double my pay.
It is a very valid point.
How does this universal law account for that very real, very practical, modern corporate situation?
The source material anticipates that exact doubt, and it delivers what is arguably the most powerful aha moment of the entire presentation.
I love this part.
The speaker acknowledges that you might logically think, if I do more, the company still makes up their mind how much I'm going to earn. They hold the purse strings.
But he says no, they actually do not.
The pivotal underlying concept here is that you do not get your pay from the company. You get your pay through the company.
Your compensation is actually coming from an infinite source of supply based on the value you create.
The company you work for right now is just the temporary current channel through which that compensation is flowing.
Let's pause on that because that is a subtle but massive distinction. Getting paid through the company, not from it.
If you internalize that, it completely removes the feeling of being trapped, capped, or victimized by your current employer's budget constraints.
Exactly. It shifts you from a localized mindset to a global market mindset.
And the text explains the universal law that governs this. It is an absolute basic law of physics and nature. When something becomes bigger than the space or the position it currently occupies, it absolutely must move on to the next larger space.
Therefore, if you dedicate yourself to constantly improving your ability, and you become bigger than your present position in terms of the value you offer, you must move ahead.
The market demands it.
If your current company is not willing or able to compensate you for that dramatically increased value, you do not need to stress or harbor resentment.
The law dictates that there will be a dozen other companies or clients or entirely new opportunities waiting in the wings for you to come along and help them.
You will naturally attract headhunters, new partnerships, or the confidence to start your own venture.
Because your stock has undeniably gone up.
You have made yourself so incredibly effective, so highly skilled, and so difficult to replace that the broader market, the universe essentially, has to respond to your new baseline.
It is uncompromising.
It is. It is treated as a mathematical certainty, according to this philosophy.
You ask the universe for what you want, but you ask in the currency of providing exceptional service.
You get back exactly what you put out, even if it eventually comes through a different channel than the one you are currently in.
This has been such a profound exploration of a really challenging text.
To quickly summarize the core takeaway for you listening, the universe is fundamentally friendly to you when you understand and align yourself with this law.
The amount of good you receive is based on the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty in replacing you.
The need is already there in our shrinking, fast-paced global world. Your only real job is to focus all of your incredible biological and mental power on your ability.
If you put immense energy and effort into constantly improving the value you provide, your entire world will inevitably improve.
This raises an important question.
In fact, it is the exact challenge the speaker poses at the very end of his presentation to drive the point home.
As you finish listening to this deep dive, take a moment to honestly ask yourself, how good are you at what you do right now?
Could you get better at it? Could you get a lot better at it?
Understand that you have more mental power and physical potential than you will ever hope to utilize. So, are you actively applying it?
Look around your specific industry or your field. Who does a noticeably better job at what you do than you do?
Are you actively studying those people?
The text urges you to study their lives, find out exactly what they do, and figure out how they do it. Read the books they read.
The more you study and apply yourself to mastering Pillar 2, the better you're going to get.
Make the firm declaration that you are going to get better every single day at what you do.
I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your day, building on everything we just discussed.
We have established that according to these historical thinkers, our compensation is an exact mirror of our ability.
Whether that is financial wealth, exciting new career opportunities, or even the depth and quality of our personal relationships, it is truly an exact, uncompromising mirror of our ability and the service we provide to others. How might completely shifting your daily internal focus from what can I get out of today to what is the absolute highest quality of service I can give today fundamentally rewire not just the trajectory of your career, but your deeply personal, everyday happiness?
It is a powerful, totally transformative lens to view your life through.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the law of compensation. Keep mastering your craft, and we will see you next time.